day and age, a lot is changing. It used to be where only real Americans can participate in patriotic activities. Now we are living in a society where Japanese are spies and have to be put in internment camps, but they still feel entitled. African Americans want to be a part of our war efforts, like flying planes, even though they're incapable of it. And lastly, Mexican Americans who walk around in their suits, but all they do is cause chaos.
As you all know, we've been in a war. The most recent attack on us was the most devastating. We were blindsided by the Japanese when they attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, killing a little over 1,500 people. We now have reason to believe that the people of Japanese ancestry that live in the U.S. are acting as spies for the enemy, Japan. As a result of this, President Roosevelt issued an order requiring the removal of all people of Japanese ancestry from California and parts of Washington. They've been relocated to camps so they won't act as a threat to other citizens. Here we can see Milton Eisenhower giving that statement.
When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, our west coast became a potential combat zone. Living in that zone were more than 100,000 persons of Japanese ancestry, 2/3 of them American citizens, 1/3 aliens. We knew that some among them were potentially dangerous. Most were loyal. But no one knew what would happen among this concentrated population if Japanese forces should try to invade our shores. Military authorities therefore determined that all of them, citizens and aliens alike, would have to move.
Despite of all what they've put us through, we've been gracious enough to allow them to join our military, but some have refused this honor because they feel as if we're violating their rights, even though it's necessary for a nation's safety because we never know who's working with the enemy. However, there have been some who have taken up this honor. But do not feel afraid, my fellow Americans. These Japanese have been separated into their own military groups, such as the 44nd. But we want all of you to know that we will use these tactics towards the Japanese Americans to ensure our country's safety.
The Jim Crow laws are still in place to ensure the separate but equal way of life remains. This means the United States currently has public places that are segregated, including, but not limited to, pools, libraries, restaurants, and bathrooms, to name some examples. Many African Americans are a part of the Double Victory campaign, which means that they believe that those who fight in the war are fighting a war for democracy, both abroad and at home. Others believe that if America still has segregated fountains and bathrooms, amongst other things, then they should not have to fight bigotry abroad. Despite this, there are African Americans who are showing patriotism and fighting, such as the Tuskegee Airmen, who are military aviators, but only the most educated ones are allowed to fight to ensure our country is still safe while they are fighting. While in the Army, there are entire units made up of solely African Americans, so they are put in completely separated units from the white soldiers, and also have separate sleeping quarters. Segregation in the military is no different than at home. This ensures that peace will come out on top, so long as things remain separate but equal.
Latinos are raising our crime rates and causing our streets in LA to be filled with unnecessary violence. Mexican Americans have the opportunity to be here by using the Bronxerio program, a program that gives the Mexican citizens a temporary agricultural work. This war has given us a reason to allow them to stay here and work in agriculture since our workforce is lacking in working men because they are serving our country in the war. Sailors resent zoo suitors because their dress attire is direct defiance of the War Board's Rationing Act, a law that forbids the use of excess guarding materials. Tensions grew and a clash between sailors and Mexican Americans happened one night. The next 3 nights consisted of sailors targeting anyone that was wearing a zoot suit for revenge. In the end, 20 sailors and 95 Mexicans were arrested, even though a total of 94 Mexican Americans out of the 112 were injured. This made national news and got the federal government's attention. President Franklin Roosevelt ordered the Navy to control its own men. 4 days later, the riots came to a cease. They live in segregated housing, low wages, and high unemployment. Mexican Americans have bad reputations, and so they've been exiled from places of business such as restaurants, theater, swimming pools, and public schools. Trying to show their patriotism, Latinos tried to enlist into the war, but many were turned away from for their criminal record. No doubt those criminals cannot be trusted. Hundreds of thousands of Hispanics, including Mexican American women, signed up to assist the war. Mexican American soldiers are organized based on their Hispanic last name, so that all Mexican American soldiers are together rather than with any white soldier. This is done because white soldiers refuse to work with unqualified Mexican Americans. Although it is not widely known, Mexican Americans participated in the releasement of Jews from Notre Dame concentration camp.
As of now, this is how we are living because of wartime. However, this is far from permanent. Our country will be what it once was when it's all over, and will remain safe during the war so long as we maintain these segregated institutions.